Hey there, Canonites! Welcome back once more to Halo Canon. As you can already guess by the title of this video, whatever I end up titling it, this is basically the end, or at least an end. And I'll get into more detail about what that means. But for anyone that just wants the long and short of things, here it is. I am no longer going to be doing Halo Canon as a full-time job. Maybe I might do it again as a hobby at some point, but right now I'm looking for traditional full-time employment. And what this means is that the channel will still be here, but I will not be uploading. As I said, I might return to it someday, but, you know, I can't promise anything, and I'm not going to promise anything. I'm just going to tell you how it is. This also means the Halo Canon Discord will be shutting down, probably in a couple weeks or so. I haven't nailed down an exact shutdown time, but I'll be making an announcement in there when I have that. So like I said, that's the long and short of it. But for anyone who's interested, I did want to get an actual long version of this put together. So for anyone ready for a story, sit back and listen in. Halo Canon started back in late 2012. I think it was October 2012 is when I first uploaded something, which would have been the Halo Canon trailer way back then. Followed soon after by, I think, a review of Halo the Thursday War, though not a review as anybody would recognize it now. Very different format, to say the least. And unfortunately, while the channel sat abandoned for a little bit, it did finally take off again in 2013. And I've essentially been running it more or less non-stop ever since. There have certainly been times where I've taken breaks, or at least it might have seemed that way, like I was taking a break. The only time I consciously took time away from the channel, to my recollection at least, was either when real-world responsibilities, whatever those might have been, took priority, or if, to be frank, I hit a bout of depression. This actually happened, I can remember it pretty clearly, back in 2017. Long story short there, I was being kicked out of my old apartment. Well, I wasn't being kicked out, I should say. The lease was up for renewal. There was going to be something like, I think it was like a $100 or $150 price spike, and I was already paying like $9.50 a month on my own. And I just couldn't do that. And eventually all that got resolved, but when I suddenly got this call in September, right after coming home from PAX, or it was right before PAX maybe, back in that day, but I got this call from my landlord. It's like, hey, your renewal's up, it's going to go up like this. And it's like, you're telling me this now? Where was this? Am I not supposed to get a better heads up than just a few weeks out, or what? It was a whole thing. Stressed me the hell out. Took up a lot of time, and you'll kind of see that as a pattern as I get further into this story. But getting back to it, 2013, channel takes off. I'm having the time of my life with Halo Canon, and back then it really was just a hobby. I thought with something as niche as Halo lore, of all things, you'd never see a channel take off, and I'd never be able to support myself full time on something like that. But it was about the fun. It was about the hobby. But then, I can't remember what year, but I joined an MCN, I think they were called, multi-channel networks. I think those still exist on YouTube. They are pointless, by the way. I would never recommend getting one. Just monetize shit on your own. You're going to get in trouble regardless, and maybe there's a few exceptional ones out there, but most MCNs, it seems, do not help their creators, at least not their low-level creators. You got to be up there. Anyway. Joined an MCN, monetized my channel, because back then I didn't realize I could do it without them. That was the point where it looked like Halo Canon might actually be a potential career path. And essentially from there, things really started exploding. The Escalation comics in 2013 and 14, I think it was. Yeah, because it was 24 issues monthly. So 2013 and 14, those really kicked off the channel. Halo 5, of course, there was a huge explosion, and that was the first game I got a review copy for from 343. Prior to that, I'd gotten some other promotional material, and that was mostly because I was a moderator on the Halo Waypoint forums. So that kind of got my foot in the door, I should say, but anyway, getting off topic. 2015, Halo 5, lots of publicity for the channel. And anyone who remembers from back then, I did this whole huge series of videos, this primer series, which I ended up doing for a couple of future releases too, and even a few of the books at times. But basically I was doing a lot of shit. I was pumping out a lot of content. And 2015 itself was just huge with Halo lore. There were like 5 or 6 books. We, of course, had Hunt the Truth on top of Halo 5. And in the years leading up to that, on top of just the continuing Master Chief saga, we had the expansion of Halo into other genres. And, of course, the sequel to the long-awaited sequel to Halo Wars 2. In these early days and up through, like, the late 2010s, Halo was just exploding. Obviously, my channel was doing really well as a result of that, but I was just excited that Halo was doing all these new things, exploring all these new genres, bringing in all these different authors to explore and flesh out the universe, hiring on people from the fan base. It was a really good time is what I'm trying to say, and even now I look back on that time with a lot of nostalgia. But then we all remember how Halo 5 went. We kind of remember how things went after that. And I'm not trying to put blame on any one thing when I say this. Problems are complicated. They're not easy to discern down to a singular cause. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I'm not trying to place blame on anything with this story. I'm just trying to communicate my thought process. So back to it. After Halo 5 Guardians, mixed reception, because there are absolutely people that like it. And you know what? There are things in Halo 5 Guardians that, even the campaign and story, that I think are good. Yes, I will even say good. Oh my god. Steve Downes' performance in that game was probably one of the best he'd given, or been able to give, in the Halo series. I mean, Halo 4, holy shit, he did some amazing voice work, but Halo 5, there were just some moments that...
Psychological tactics. Saying my name. Playing nice.
What would you have me do?
Tell me the truth. How many people died when you called the Guardians here?
Excuse me?
You know, don't you? The exact body count.
Oh, for a man that has to communicate purely through his voice, Steve Downes has seemingly mastered it. Because, oh my god, can the man convey emotion through voice and tone alone? It's astounding. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But of course, in the wake of Halo 5, the very abysmal treatment of the Master Chief Collection, there was understandable divide in the community, and for the most part I tried to stay out of it. I definitely didn't succeed in that regard, don't get me wrong, but at least in spirit I wanted to stay out of it. But the thing about being a Halo content creator is that you have to get in the thick of things. You have to be aware of things if you want, or at least if you want to be a content creator that is up to date on current events, for lack of a better phrase. You have to be in the thick of it in the community. And for whatever reason, I got it into my head that the only way that I could succeed with Halo Canon was if, in addition to being just a general lore channel, I was a lore news channel. And there was certainly an attraction to that. Some of the early stuff I did covering news content and just general updates is really fun. I actually really enjoyed covering the toy fairs the few times that I did. Not great, not well, but I enjoyed it. But of course, forcing yourself to be in the thick of things exposes you to a lot of behaviors that most people would probably rather avoid. And can certainly instill some behaviors in you that you're not going to be proud of. I've done my fair share of bullshit that I am ashamed of, publicly and otherwise. So. All of this is to say that I've essentially for the last 10 years, at least, or 9 years or so with Halo Canon, been doing it nonstop, shoving my face in the thick of the community, in all the corners I could think of, and just taking on a mental load. By the time we get, and of course, coronavirus and the fact that I was working a full-time job on top of that, for most of my time with Halo Canon did not help. that brings us to Halo Infinite. When Halo Infinite was announced, there of course was a lot of cheer about the return to a classic art style. And I'm not going to get too much into my thoughts on this. But as someone that absolutely loved a lot of what 343 did with the Halo franchise, aesthetically, visually, and in gameplay in a lot of ways too. But mostly focusing on the art style aspect for the moment. As someone who really liked a lot of that, the early content and marketing for Halo Infinite was basically, it felt a lot like a middle finger to people like me. And you know what? That's my interpretation. I objectively know that 343 didn't mean it like that, because I've gotten to talk to these people many times in person. It's helped keep a very clear perspective on things most of the time. But yeah, Halo Infinite felt a lot like a rejection of many of the elements of Halo that I'd grown to love. We were looking at a game that seemed to reject a lot of the 343 art style. Sorry, I should call it the 343 art style in quotes entirely. I hate that so much. But I guess, yeah, as someone, it felt like a rejection of a lot of things 343 had done. Obviously, in the end, there were never Prometheans, which I thought were, if not the most well-designed enemy, they were still interesting, and I think they could have been salvaged. But again, I'm getting off topic, sorry. That isn't this video. What I'm trying to say is that the feelings had been building up in me for a long time. Halo Infinite kind of just brought all those to the surface. And I took it personally. I shouldn't have, but somewhere deep down I did. And that just kind of, well, whatever it did, I don't have the words, I guess, but whatever it did, it pushed me somewhere it pushed me mentally somewhere unhealthy. Or it pushed me further in that direction than I'd been before, or it was starting to. And of course, the community discourse around that only exacerbated things. And of course, my reaction to this news only exacerbated things. Again, I'm not trying to put blame on anything. This is me. This is me. But it all contributed to a very negative headspace. And between a lot of real-life stuff, a lot of real-life stresses, all of it kind of came to a head in March of this year. As some people may remember, in March, I decided to take a week, ended up being more like a week and a half, 2-week break from the channel after, I don't remember exactly what I said off the top of my head right now, but it was after an anxious breakdown. I was working on some video content right here, playing some Halo Infinite. I got incredibly frustrated and I couldn't breathe, couldn't see. I couldn't see clearly, I should say, and I just kind of curled up in a ball on the ground. And it made me realize the problem isn't the game, the problem is me. I need to step away. Ironically, I'd been saying that people need to step away from Halo for years if it's causing them stress. But I figured out, I guess, a clever way to bury the stress that it was causing me. Or that I was causing myself because of it, I should say. So I took that break and I thought, once I'm done, I'll be good. I just need to unwind. I've never really had a true vacation in a long time. Anytime I took vacation from work, it was always to do Halo Canon related shit or to go on a family vacation. We all know how those go. Nah, I love my family. But I thought, yeah, that'll be it. I just need to recharge for a bit. And for a little bit, it seemed like that might be the case. I thought, I'll cut out the Halo Infinite multiplayer, I'll just focus on campaign and story content, and it'll be great. And you know what? I even dove into some multiplayer content. I was actually going to talk a lot about the Season 2 storyline and the interference event. I recorded a bunch of gameplay and had a script even written out. Even had some assets made. I thought I was really getting into it again. But then as May kind of dragged on and we got into the start of June, I realized how miserable working on Halo Canon content was making me. And I knew I needed to step away again, not just for a couple weeks, but for an extended period of time. And I needed to just do things that weren't related to Halo. I needed to do anything. And, initially I thought, you know what, maybe I should try a different YouTube channel. I'll make a completely new one. And it'll just be about other stuff. I'll make it about whatever I want to make it about. I was doing all this stuff preparing for it. I was going to talk about Bionicles, one of my first videos. I was very excited. But then making that started to get miserable. And the only time I could really find joy was in basically just cleaning things up, finding things to do, which really was probably just a distraction for the longest time. I cleaned out my closet, I cleaned up my room, hung up these shelves, put up a bunch of collectibles that I've been keeping in, tried to make this place feel more homey. Cleaned up my storage unit where I keep a bunch of stuff, because this room's kind of about it for the space I have to display things. Pretty small apartment. Not a bad apartment, but small apartment. So got to keep a lot of stuff in storage. And you know what? I went through and cleaned all that up. And it felt pretty good. And as I took that break from Halo Canon at the start of June, I went to therapy. And I've been continuing therapy. It's been really damn good. I've confronted feelings that I've been burying. I've felt validated for the first time in a long time. And as you can kind of see, I have just been being more of me. And it's been feeling good. But anytime I tried to return to any sort of YouTube work, I just felt that same misery. And after talking it over with my family, talking it over with my therapist, and just taking most of July to think about it, I came to the conclusion that doing YouTube full-time is just not something I enjoy as a career. It's a great hobby. And you know what? Like I said at the start, I would love to return to it someday. Got to find the right motivation. Got to have enough time away that I can get interested again. But for now, I can't continue doing YouTube. So for the time being, this is the end of Halo Canon. And before we go, I need to thank everyone who subscribed to this channel and helped support it over the years once more. From the people that supported me at the very beginning, and a few, I don't even know how many are still around. I'm actually curious if there are any that followed me from other channels. So I actually had a couple very, very small channels before Halo Canon that I advertised Halo Canon on to get it a bit of a push way back when. But, from those people to the people that have joined since and are here now, and even just the people that hopped on during the Halo TV show. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. To the patrons on Patreon who supported me financially, thank you. Thank you not only for the support, but thank you for giving me the motivation to do a lot of different things that I probably wouldn't have. Most notably, the Discord. It was the patrons on Patreon that helped me build that, gave me the motivation to put it together, and helped me build it for a lot of the early, I don't know how long, I guess months, So I don't think it's been around for even a year, but anyway. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank my moderators on the Halo Canon Discord. Especially in the last 2 months while I've been MIA for most of that time. They've been incredibly diligent, they've been incredibly understanding, and they've just been damn good at the job. So thank you as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the subscribers, the followers, the supporters, the moderators, the collaborators, the artists that helped me out. So many of them. And thank you to 343 for the support over the years. Thank you to Bungie for crafting this amazing universe that we now get to play around in. And that I'm going to be taking a bit of a break from for a little bit. So, that's pretty much it for now. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll answer any that you might have, as long as I keep it as long as I can, I guess. Otherwise, for now, this has been Halo Canon, signing off.